Welcome to the Voodoo Power Podcast. Welcome to Plates and Pancakes. We're sitting down today with Zack Fleming. Coach Fleming is the head strength conditioning coach for Dobyns Bennett High School, where he'll be starting his 11th year. Fleming was the 2022 NHS SCA Tennessee High School Strength Coach of the Year. He also serves on the Tennessee NHS SCA Advisory Board. Prior to returning to his alma mater, Fleming was a graduate assistant at Carson Newman University. Coach Fleming has a Master of Science degree from Southern Utah in Sports Performance and Conditioning and a Master's of Education from Carson Newman University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Youth and Recreational Ministry. Fleming is Precision Nutrition Level 1, USAL Level 1 and 2. He is TRX Qualified Trainer, and he holds a CSCS. So we're going to show, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I probably should have got around to this sooner, but you just kind of work through guys as they come up. So I appreciate you taking time on a Sunday to sit down and do this thing.
Absolutely.
And as I was kind of preparing for this, I found a few different things that I pulled some questions from. I found a podcast you were on and then an article you wrote and a few different things that come up. So we'll just start with some of the stuff from the podcast. But in that, you got pretty deep into your progression from transactional to kind of transformational coaching. And I think for a lot of us, that is a struggle to not necessarily leave the intensity behind, but leave some of the fire maybe that some of them athletes can't handle, kind of leave that back a little bit. How were you able to kind of transform how you coach?
Well, so honestly, it was, you pile a bunch of failures up and you kind of realize like you're banging your head against like, why is this not working? And, I like direct. I don't like, well, let's just maybe do this. I like our AD, phenomenal. There's no question where I stand. Like, there's no question about what we need to do. He's direct. Our football coach, direct. A lot of the coaches in my life, my dad, like there's directness. There's no questions. And so like you can be direct without being like, just this is exactly how it's going to go. Right. And so I messed up the directness with this authoritarian, like teenagers, you're going to do exactly what I say, like no questions asked. And sometimes I say this and it sounds like I'm just trying to like pull back and be soft on them. I'm not doing that. You just learn that like at the end of the day, I play a part in what we do. We're not measured by the weight room, right? Like football, basketball, baseball, all these wins occur not necessarily because of, sometimes in spite of even the weight room, or sometimes, like our soccer team just doesn't train with us and they still win. It's just a philosophical difference. I don't hate them. So just realizing I'm not as important as I think I am. My role is to do everything I can to help the kid, not the kid serve me. It's once I get kind of that order right, it makes everything else kind of fall into place. And then I don't have to be this fake drill sergeant type, that it's just like, you will do what I say, when I say, and like, there's no other options. Yes, we'll hold a standard, but once you get your priorities in order, everything just kind of falls into place.
When you're kind of going through that and you're figuring it out, it seems like maybe any of them questions or ideas the kids have, they're almost a knock on our ability to know what we're doing. So learning that, hey, they can ask some questions and come up with some ideas, and it doesn't mean we're not good at what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We just haven't seen it from a 13-year-old's perspective in a long time.
Yep. Listen, we had a kid one time, he was hurt. And he was notoriously hurt. I honestly, at one point, thought that he just didn't want to train. Like I just assumed he didn't want to. And after a couple of years, I realized he was just kind of physically he got hurt a lot. And so I was trying to think of something in class that he could do to help me. And come to find out, he was a phenomenal coder. And so I was like, well, can you figure out how to code some stuff for my spreadsheet to make it run smoother? And so he started asking me what felt like basic questions. But he was asking me questions in such a way that I was having to explain what we were doing to he was a 16-year-old kid, but I had to explain it to where he could actually understand it, not just execute what I wanted him to do. And so I started thinking like, well, maybe if they understood why the heck we're doing some of the crazy things we do, they just might buy in a little bit more. Or maybe if I ask them their feedback on some of the things, it might just get them to, want to understand or buy in more. And also when they ask me questions, like it's okay if I don't know the answer. You know, if I'm a know-it-all, then I'm burdened with actually knowing it all, and I don't. And so by not knowing it all, it makes me more human, more approachable. You know, it's easier to have conversations with the kids about whatever it is, and whether it's training related or life related. I don't try to pretend I know everything anymore.
Well, you kind of hit on it there. And so for anybody that hasn't read the NHS SCA article, take a few minutes and read it. It was really good. But you kind of touch on what you just said. The simpler the process, the faster and more efficient the organization's operated at. So why we want to get into peaking models and all these great things we've learned over the years, at the end of the day, a 16-year-old really don't understand that or care to understand that. They just want to know what the workout is, how to get stronger, and how does this show up on the field. So dialing back the program, like you just said, so that a 16-year-old can understand it, run it, and feel good about it. How much time did that take to kind of understand that process?
Well, and so I started at DB in 2015, and it was almost like there's been two halves of my career, pre-COVID and post-COVID. And so it was almost like everything I learned up to COVID, it was almost thrown out the window because it just the dynamic of kid changed. And so learning it the first time probably took up till 2018, 3 or 4 years. Relearning it went way faster because it was like, again, like I said earlier, you stand on this pile of failures and mess ups and mistakes. And it was, well, the first time I screwed it up doing this, and it took us a whole cycle of kids getting through from freshman year to senior year to get it fixed. And well, if I made a similar mistake, it was just I could get it out sooner, or it just again it was a pride thing. The issue stayed longer early because I didn't want to say I was wrong, and then later it's like, well, it's okay, I'm wrong every day. So now let's be like, hey guys, I screwed that up. Let's just change this. This was, and we were lifting with football the other day, and I'm trying to teach some of the new kids. We had a kid coming in. He just moved in there. He's a senior. We was trying to teach him some VBT stuff, and I was like, hey, let's just try to be around this speed doing this, and it was just not working for him at all. And I couldn't get it. I was like, listen, just take the thing off. Let's just go. Let's just bench today. How about that? And then we'll worry about that later. Because everything's going on, and old me would have just held on to like, no, this is what I planned. This is what I want. This is what we're doing. And that's just not efficient.
There's a couple different things in there. Now you're at the school every day. I'm not at the school. I just get the kids here after school. But do you think post-COVID, the kids don't take school as serious? Do you think there was a switch that got flipped in there somewhere where it lost its importance to them somewhere along the line?
Well, we do this thing where we have, like when we do the ACT, all juniors get a free ACT. So we just give the kids a virtual day, knowing 100% that there's nothing virtual going on. It just counts as a school day as opposed to not a school day. And so it's almost like I think the kids think like, well, if we can just get a virtual day and do nothing, what's the point in the other ones? Now I will say we're a really academic school. We're one of the top schools in the state academically, and so it gets taken seriously. We've got kids that are taking dual enrollment this and AP and BC and stuff I can't pronounce. And so I mean I do work with kids that academically they're really really good, but yeah, it's almost like the importance of school in and of itself is it's like I don't. It's not a big a deal. Of course, a lot of them are doing like their side gigs and little hustles and this and that. It's like, man, I can start making money now. I don't have to do school, you know. And we got work based learning too. So it's almost like kids are realizing that school's important, but maybe, maybe I can just go make some money over here.
I've wondered that, just kind of watching how things have changed post COVID, and I don't even work's another one for everybody out in the workforce. It's like it lost a little bit of its importance in people's eyes because, okay, you mean we can just shut this down for a few weeks and nothing changes? Yeah. So I think it's definitely had people reevaluate their life situation.
Well, certainly for me, My second daughter was born during COVID, and so I'm thankful because I used to they used to give me a hard time. I hated snow days. I'm still not like pumped about them, and it's simply because they mess up the training plan. Like that's the only reason that bothers me. But now it's like, well, I can spend the day with my family, so it's way it's way more enjoyable. I love it now, and whereas early on it was like, man, I don't want to miss a snow day because basketball's hard enough anyways to get in and taken care of, and then they're like, I'm going to miss 2 days now because of, and it was just stubborn stupidity is all it was.
You also talked about trying to help the kid with the VBT and trying to explain it to him in terms he got it. I think that's been a struggle for me over the years is sometimes you don't have the words to describe what you want, and you can keep saying it, but it doesn't mean they're going to grasp it just because you change the inflection of your tone. How have you found ways to reach kids without just using the same words over and over again?
Well, I'll tell you this, I've learned. So when I teach the kid, I mean, obviously we all learn differently. Some learn through hearing, through seeing, through doing. There's a lot of different things. Some through teaching. Some of my kids can't really execute it, but they can explain what to do really well, and that helps them get better at it. And so what I've learned is just I'll try to help the kid, and if it's just not working out, we'll slow down. Sometimes just letting them do it, as long as they're not going to get hurt. Their body kind of self-organizes. I kind of moved to that model with squatting a couple of years ago, and man, it's been really good. Now, again, if they're going to get hurt doing it, but I don't also want them to be perfect position. Like, I don't want it perfect every time. I need them to know what wrong feels like too. Safely do wrong, but I need them to know what wrong feels like so their body can go, oh, let's get out of this position. Also, like if you watch any sport, when are we always doing perfect technique? We're not. It's just not happening. So even with while they're learning how to at least control a bad position. They self-organize into doing it the right way. That just goes back into the whole, like, every kid's a little different. Sometimes I'll run with some of our cross-country kids, and I'm 260 pounds, and I'm 6 feet tall, and I mean, I'm not built to be a cross-country runner. I'm not trying to be built to be a cross-country runner. I just do it because I like the kids, I like spending time with them sometimes, and they smoke me, but they're all tall and lanky, and it's like, man, if we got a squat rack, I would toast every one of you combined. And so it's almost like if I force them to squat a certain way or to do something a certain way, like they're just not going to be good at it. And same thing when I go out and do stuff that I'm not good at. And so if I'm going to force it, like you have to learn it this way, well, maybe you just don't learn it that way. And I just got to realize that because I prefer it doesn't mean you prefer it. And again, it's not my program. The program is here for you. So if I'm going to be here for you to serve you and make you better, well, then by golly, I better be adaptable and flexible.
The one I have struggled with the most is the deadlift.
My gosh, it's awful hard.
It is, and it's a simple idea, right? You bend down, you pick the weight up, but they all want to throw slack in their shoulders so that when they set their butt down, the bar doesn't move. And it's so hard to get them to teach. Maybe I finally come up with something that helped, but I started talking to them about make sure your shoulders are connected to your butt. So if your butt goes down, they're locked in with your shoulders, and then your weight pops the bar up. But it's taken years. It's taken 7 years to figure out the way to coach that. And so I definitely get it. If you're not always searching out better ways to coach it, the kids just kind of quit listening to you for too long.
Yep.
Now, as we were getting ready for this, we were texting back and forth, and one of the stats you were really proud on is your ability to grow the room. You're seeing an influx in new athletes come in. You're seeing the size of your room get bigger. How have you been able to bring in the numbers?
Well, I think one, obviously you see results if any coaches talk. So if you start seeing results in one thing, coaches are going to talk, and then, well, I want my kids to see results. And so that's an easy way. You provide results. I mean, one of the biggest ways is that I'll tell you the secret this past year was just that our class schedule has just improved every single year. And I remember our principal would be like, if he saw me coming, he would like turn his tail and run the other way just early on. Cause I was like, man, we need to do this, and this. And I mean, I remember day one, I told him this mean, pretty close to what we have now. Not quite, but close to what we have now. Schedule that I wanted. And he was like, that would take us changing the entire school system. We can't do that. So we're not going to do any of it. And so I realized, well, maybe if we just get one thing at a time. So it was like 1 year at a time. I just asked for one more change and one more change. And then it went from like my first year, we started, the football class had 12 kids in it, nine of which were football players, three of which were ESL students that didn't play football, that just had to have a class. So that was the football class. And then the rest of them was just whoever wanted to sign up for it. And it averaged about 25 kids in the other three classes. So you're talking about, 100 kids at the end of the day, maybe 100, 90 to 100. And so that's when I first started. And then now we've got a football class that has it's like if you play football, you're in the class. 7 a.m., you're in there, all of them. So this year that'll be 77 kids. Like we almost have our daily total from 11 years ago at 7 a.m. And so just getting the classes in that. And then you go to we have all the varsity male athletes. Then we have a female sports class. Then we have, I call it the Island of Misfit Toys. It's the kids that, it's football players that for some reason can't be in the football class, or the female athletes that can't be in. It's just, if you don't fit in the time we want you in, it's just, we get you in then. And then I got all freshmen at the end of the day. And let me tell you, academic teachers are pumped. They're like, you want freshman boys at the end of the day when they're the wildest? Yes. They're the most energetic. They're ready to train. I gotta keep them in line, but man, they are fired up and ready. Yes, I'll take them. So that was an easy win. But so we went from, less than 100 a day just in classes to now we have, I think as of Friday, I think we had 367 in class so far. So that'll be up closer to 400 by the time school starts. They're still working on schedules, but I mean, it was just kind of persistence with them. And then, like I said, if a kid then isn't in class and they've seen results from their friends or their coaches have seen results, now they want to come after school. And we've expanded into the middle school, getting them in there. I mean, I'm technically supposed to be 6th grade to 12th grade, but I'm at the high school all day. And so I've aside from the classes, probably the biggest thing is that I've gotten assistant coaches. I went out and fundraised money so I could pay them. And so now I've got coaches at both middle schools. They come to the high school. I went down and talked to the transportation department, and they will bus any middle school kid that wants to lift. They'll bus them over after school for me. And one of the fun things is that now I've got former athletes that are coming back and getting hired in the school system, and they're in the middle school, and they're the head coach, and they're like, "Hey, we want to bring our kids in. Can we bring them in?" You dang right you can. We had middle school track, and there was 97 kids. We have two middle schools. One middle school brought 97 kids for the track team. And so that's a ton of kids just getting exposure to the weight room and training. Now, if it was just me and I've got 97 track middle school plus all the other high school after school, yeah, it's probably not happening. But, we've got 5 assistant coaches that may or may not coach another sport, but we pay them and they come in and help. And so we've got more coaches. We're flexible with our space. And so, aside from just that kind of natural growth, we've got, I try to go to at least one home event or one event, home or away, doesn't matter, for every single sport. If I can go to 2, I try to go to 2. And that's both middle schools and high school. And so sometimes, and then my kids are in sports. So there's a lot of sports after school hours that we're at. And I used to be the avoid parents at all costs just because I'm not here for you. Like, not that I hate them. I just, it is what it is with youth sports. And just, like I said, I don't hate parents, but sometimes it's, you get in conversations, you're like, I really don't be talking. I want to just watch the game. But just being available to parents and talking to them has been another thing.
Now, where are you seeing the biggest gains? Through the middle school, as you're getting as you're getting to these athletes younger, are you seeing more carryover through their high school?
Yeah. And so it's almost like if you get them in middle school, that's all they know. Like they just expect to go train. So they're showing up at training. I've got kids that now our class is reserved for our athletes just because we have so many of them. But I've got kids that end up not playing sports, or they'll be in the band or something, but they came through middle school. and they'll be like, "Hey, coach, can we come? When can we lift still?" And so if I have space, I'll put them in the Misfit Toys class. Or I've got last year, I had 16 kids that were in ROTC or band that for at some point were training and played a sport and then quit for whatever reason. But I had 16 non-athletes coming in the morning at 6 a.m. just because that's just kind of what we do. And so, yeah, I think definitely that. Just the middle school expectation, and our coaches, it's expected, like it's what we do. I mean, you don't get punished in like if say a kid doesn't show up in the summertime, you're not getting punished. It's just like you're also not going to be as good as anybody else if you don't show up and train. So it almost kind of self polices itself. Like you're not getting in trouble, but you also don't want to be behind either, right? It kind of just takes care of itself, and you're not behind. I don't say that to like bully kids into like you got to be here every like. First off, you're a kid. It's June and July. I would love for you to go take a vacation. I think that'd be phenomenal because I'm going to see you every single school day this whole year. You want a break from me? I need a break from you. Like, do that, great. But the kids certainly are on each other. Like, hey man, where are you at? Or they'll come tell me, hey coach, so and so. The kids already texted me why they couldn't be there. They'll say, hey coach, he had something come up, can't be here. But it's just kind of the expectation that we're going to train, we're going to get better. Doesn't matter what time or day it is, we're going to do it.
When I first started doing this, it seems like the influx was athletes going into their junior year, starting to realize that, hey, this thing's almost over. I'm not prepared for where I want to go after this. The clock is running out.
Mm-hmm.
Now it seems like, yes, the younger athletes are starting to see what those older athletes did, so they're putting the time in now, and we're seeing even better results. When you first started doing this, is that a system that maybe you kind of saw too, or am I a one-off on that?
Well, no, I think you're right. I remember after maybe it was my first off season with football. One of the kids came up and he was in track. And again, that was when I didn't have them all in class. And so he was in track and not lifting because the track coach at the time didn't want him to lift. He didn't know me. He didn't know any better, right? Now he's bought in. But the kid came up to me and was like, Coach, man, your system's phenomenal. And he was basing that off just the other kid's growth, not having been in there. Man, I can't wait to get in there. And just, he was going into his senior year and he was okay. But he ended up, he became an all conference kid for us and it really helped us. But just, yeah, I agree 100%. Early on, it was like they'd kind of done the same thing for a little bit. And it was, kids, not stale. And I'm not saying switch it up just to switch it up, but it was something new, something fresh. But those kids that were like, man, that's my last go around. You know how kids mature anyways that last year, right? We got a kid right now who last year we were like, man, we need you to be our center. You have the starting center job if you'll just show up and have put work in. And he didn't. We had to play him one game. He had 4 snaps in a row over the quarterback's head, and it was awful. It was awful. It was like he just like and now this year he's definitely starting. He's good. He's really good. It's just but like his mindset has changed. It's just something about with boys, especially maturity wise. The boys have that like a lot of them at least. They're either just wild and going everywhere, and then something happens, and you're like, whoa, who are you, man? Like, are you the same kid? It's just, it's just they know how to channel it or something, and they settle down, and then they start taking it seriously, and then they see the numbers skyrocket, and they're like, man, coach, I wish I'd tried this hard for 4 years. I agree, man. I wish the same thing. But it's just it's this male cycle, right? Like we don't like being told what to do. We want to be the alpha, not somebody else, and it takes time.
I had heard somebody else say this, and then once I try to debunk it in my head, but the harder I look at it, the more I seem like it's pretty accurate. That 2-year mark in a program,
yeah,
that's when everything just explodes for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Have you kind of seen that development, from a freshman year, then by the time they're junior, they're just getting ready to really explode? Is that how that works there? Or are you seeing it quicker, seeing it later? How's it developing?
So I track the training sessions, if for no other reason, just having the data. Like it's not a grade or anything. Nothing crazy happens or cool, but I like to know the data. We have 180 school days And the vast majority of our male athletes, and the only reason I say male athletes is because our female athletes, unless they're a fall sport, I don't really see them in the summer. And that's fine. I don't really need to. Um, but our male athletes, it's almost like they got to go, they go year round because a lot of them are football or whatever it is. I can, by the end of their freshman year, have 200 training sessions with a freshman male athlete. And so it's like in my mind, when I first started, once you got to 100, I was letting you do some pretty cool stuff. By the end of your freshman year, I've got you almost 200 times. And then I've got your sophomore, junior, and senior year still ahead of us. And so really I'm seeing it now. If the kids' maturity is there, their sophomore year, I'm ready to roll with them. And maybe they're not necessarily ready to execute at a varsity level. They might not be able to go in and handle and understand the game because going from freshman to the varsity level it's just different. And so maybe there's that adjustment. But physically, golly, a lot of them are really, really prepared. We had a kid, our shortstop on baseball this year. He graduated, had 650 training sessions, and that was before we had the classes. That's a ton of days, right? That's like if he didn't get better, and he was our fastest kid, and of course he's your shortstop in baseball, he better be pretty athletic. Had a phenomenal vertical, can fly, like pound for pound strength. I mean, he was up there. And so, after 650 sessions, if you don't get better, like I should be fired anyways, right? I should be gone. But I seriously, I think it's kind of my barometer right now is if I've got you in class, if I've got you during the school day, by Christmas of your freshman year, we should be good. We should be ready to start focusing on your varsity development plan. Like we've got the foundation done. And then from January through May, we see a pretty big upswing. And then in June, you'll start. I mean, you're treated like a varsity athlete, and it's like you just throw them in, and you don't. Is that kid a sophomore? Like, how old's that kid? I don't. That's just kind of the way it's working for us right now. And it's really fun because this year's sophomore group, this is the first time in a while we've had a good group, not just one or two kids, probably five or six, skill wise or athlete wise, basketball or football, just look really athletic. And it's like, golly, man, we look really good. It's not just old so and so, man. It's like that guy and that guy. Man, you got to pump the brakes. You're like, man, I did that. No, I didn't do anything. Their mom and dad made good choices. They showed up to train, and yes, it just happened to be at the same time. But it's really fun though.
Now, going back to what you were talking about and how your program's growing and bringing in these younger kids, going back to your article, there is a lot of planning that has to go into that. Yes, you have some assistant coaches, but you have to reduce the wait times. You have to figure out how the flow of the room's going to go. I'm sure not every kid coming in is going to be the same kid day in, day out. Life just happens. Some aren't as locked in as others. Different things come up. So streamlining the process, getting the flow working where, let's say it's every training session, there's a new kid in there that you have to get up to speed, and they're very young.
Yeah.
How are you able to make that work without pulling out your hair?
Well, so what I've got set up to do is I usually have 6 coaches in there at a time with me. Like I said, they're all, it's not just sport coaches in there helping. It is like they have some sort of strength conditioning background. So I can pretty feasibly say, hey, you have this part of the room. I'm not going to think about it. You've got it. And I don't have to go answer questions or worry about it. So that is, 6 strength coaches in a high school is pretty phenomenal to have. And so what we ended up doing is we will kind of break them off into groups. And so we'll have, and I know it's not necessarily the most scientifically best thing of all time to do, but we'll break up. Our weight room's about 1,500 square feet, so it is nowhere close to big enough. Especially when you're bringing in, like I'm all right now in my mind, I'm thinking of the 97 middle school track kids, plus the after school high school kids, plus the other middle school kids that weren't there for track. And we were, at that point, it was probably 170 kids in that space. Like you can't put 170 kids in the 1,500 square foot weight room and pretend like you have efficiency or safety. And so what we did was we divided them up. into just it was 4 or 5 groups depending on the day, and we had one strip of racks doing one thing, one strip of racks doing another thing. We had one group of them outside sprinting. One of them we had a meeting room that's adjacent to the weight room, and we were in there doing some sort of. We would move the tables, all the desks out to the side, and we would do. It's a carpeted floor, but it's a little softer. We would do some of our jump training stuff in there. The ceiling is actually higher too, so I kind of like it. Do some of our jump training stuff, and then we would have another coach doing like a change of direction. We've got a little bit of a. It's not a. I don't want to call it a field. It's grassy, but it's like gravelly. It's not really like we're not playing any games on it. So they can do some change of direction stuff as best as you can. I mean, it's not perfect, but that's what we got. So we would rotate them through that in just some capacity. So that making the groups smaller makes it a whole lot easier. You're talking about maybe 30 kids. As a strength coach, if you can't handle 30 kids, man, that's to me 30 kids is a small group, right? That's just what I'm used to. And so 30 kids, I guess it wasn't as bad. And again, you've got the kids who've been there, who've done it. Hey, let's guys, we're getting started on this, and then I'll spend some more time, or I'll even pair up the new kid with somebody who's been in there. And I know you're like, well, that kind of, and it's not always great. So, and it depends on the kid. So I don't always do that, but just letting that kid by putting the new kid in with somebody who's been there and knows, you're giving that kid some leadership, some ownership. You're developing right there. So now that kid's like he feels or she feels in charge of making sure that kid knows what's going on. So they're taking ownership over that kid, that group, that little section of the training session. And so now you're not even on purpose developing leadership. Maybe it's on purpose, but or at least that kid's developing some vocalness and willingness to speak out, and not be like, man, you suck. They're not doing that. Like, hey, man, let's do it this way. This is how I do it. Watch me do this, and then it's kind of fun to watch the kids struggle through the coaching cues that I struggle with too. It's like they appreciate it. But really just making don't see the force and be like, man, it's so overwhelming. Let's pare it down. Hey, you're going to coach this group, and I'm not worried. If I hired you, I trust you. You go make decisions for those kids, and now we'll rotate through and we'll see all the kids. We'll stay at the station, but like I've got a former sprinter she was a collegiate sprinter. She does our sprint stuff because that's what she loves. Two, she's really good at it. I don't. I tell her this is what I want, and I'll let her do the rest of it. And just I think that helps because in their time, I'm like, hey, I want us to do this. I say exactly what we do, but when you got coaches and you empower them to go do it the way they want to do it, and you don't question them and then make them justify it. I mean, understand, I have to know what we're doing. It's my job. But if I trust her to go and do that and she does it well, then she's coaching it way better too. She's got more ownership as the coach. And so, it's one thing to have 6 coaches in there, but like 6 coaches that have ownership, and then they're taking that, going down to the kids, giving those kids ownership. And so you end up having, 170 kids plus coaches, but you end up having all of them coaching each other. And that's really about the only way you can do it effectively and safely and not have, we're talking about middle school and high schoolers. Like the chance of them not screwing up is such a low number. Like they're going to mess up, whether that be a technique or just a maturity thing. Like when's the last time you had middle school boys that they didn't just like randomly punch each other for just to do it? Like they're going to do that. It's just like they just, or they'll start shaking. They can't contain it. So if you have this humongous group, you can't manage that. But you make it smaller, you can.
Going back to the podcast that you were on, this really stuck out to me because I've been known to do it to myself more times than not. But finally getting past that like self-sabotage system in our lives, getting out of your own way and letting the success kind of come to you. Was there a realization of what was going on, or maturity happened? How'd that kind of flip the switch and you were able to get out of your own way?
I think just as you reflect and you try to find, you ask the next question. My dad was telling me a story that they were asking about. It was something with the Lincoln Monument or Lincoln Memorial, sorry. And so they were having to clean it. like for years it was fine. And then all of a sudden they had to start cleaning it with this new bleach and it smelled awful. And people were complaining about it. And they said, well, we're having to clean it because the birds are pooping on it all the time. And like they weren't doing that before, but now they're doing it all the time. And there's so much bird poop, we got to clean it so much more. It just smells like bleach. It smells awful. It's tarnishing the monument. And they were just like, well, we don't have a solution. We can't figure it out. And so then they started just doing science, like, okay, well, this is what's going on. What are the reasons that why would the birds possibly be pooping more on the monument, on the memorial? And come to find out, it was that they had changed the light bulbs in the lights that were reflecting on the memorial. That attracted a different type of bug that those pigeons fed on. So then there's more pigeons near the monument and therefore more bird poop on it. So you're destroying the thing. So all they did was go back and change the light bulbs and the problem went away. Right. And you're like, why the heck is he telling this story? It's because like sometimes we ask, okay, what's the problem? Is this is going wrong? And we just get so stuck on it. Well, what's the issue? And we want to focus one way. For us, naturally, we look externally. My program's not going well. My kids suck. That's it. They just don't buy in. Why don't the kids buy in? At some point, I've got to turn it. If I can't find the answer going down that route, I've got to turn it around and be like, okay, what am I doing to get them to buy in better? Or what am I doing to get them to execute? You know, they are not doing like, there's no learning. Like I can teach, but if they don't like accept it, if they don't learn it, then nothing happened, right? Just because I'm in charge doesn't mean anything. Like they actually have to learn it. And so if they don't learn it, I got to figure out what the problem is. And sometimes the answer is me. Sometimes the answer is something else is going on elsewhere. There's different answers. But I gotta be able to one, ask that next level question. But two, I gotta be willing to think I might be the answer for what the problem is. And if I'm the problem, I've got to be willing to change it. Because if I'm not willing to change, like, well, the program, I'm going to limit everything we do, right? If I've got my hands on all of our athletes, our entire school system is limited because of my lack of humility. And so I've just got, like, I think it's just that realization, like, again, that I'm not that important. Like, at the end of the day, I'm just not. Tomorrow's our first teacher in service week. If I called them tomorrow, I was like, hey, man, I'm going somewhere else. They'll hire somebody and they're going to go on. Like, I'm not that important, right? Life goes on without me. And so being willing to adapt to enable the kids to make the biggest impact, right? If the whole point's impacting kids, not me be glorified, that's not the goal of this whole thing. I think it was just the realization of that allowed me to be like, okay, if I'm just a jerk that nobody wants to train with, nobody wants to do anything with, and like they're not going to be encouraged to come in here, and then all the stuff that I think is awesome, they're not going to do because I'm too big a jerk to be around. And so if I'll just get out of my own way, maybe, and that's not to say that you don't have problems and I don't mess up still, because I do. But I think at least the awareness is just, it at least can steer you in the right direction.
I do have some training questions in here. We haven't gotten to them yet. So with what you just said there, it opened up a few questions I had wrote before we had started this. Now, you have a Bachelor's of Arts in Youth and Recreational Ministry.
Mm-hmm.
How have you managed to make that work for you in what you're doing now?
Well, so I got, when I went into college, I thought, I wanted to be like a youth minister of some sort, right? And then I went to Carson Newman, played football, and played for Coach Sparks. If you know anything about him, we pretty much kind of called it church camp. Is really what it was. Like it was like we played football, but it was the whole point was impacting kids for Christ, or I guess not kids. They were adults, but they were athletes. And so seeing that, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go do my internships at the church, work there. I'm going to do this. And I didn't hate the experience. I didn't dislike the people I worked with. I didn't dislike the kids. And I was just like, man, I want more. This doesn't fire me up the way I expected it to, right? Part of the thing was like, I might see the kids on Sunday. I might see them on Wednesday. And so I was like, but I tell you what, I was hurt my junior year. And so I just was kind of like our defensive line coach. I was like his little minion assistant coach. And so I just kind of, man, I love this whole coaching thing. I love this. I go work camps, man. I would do anything I could. I loved that. And quite frankly, what it was I walked into my last class. And now I minored in exercise science, so it wasn't like I was out of the world. I was still. They just didn't have a true name for it on the degree plan. And so I was doing that, and I walked into my very last required class, my senior year. It was called History of the Baptist People. And I sat down, I was like, this is not what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. Like, I don't like ministry is important to me, but like in my mind, I was like, if I'm going to say I'm in ministry, I have to go work in a church. And it was like, I just spent my entire college career trying to figure out that I didn't have to do that. I thought like that ministry had to be my vocation. I didn't realize that my vocation could be my ministry. And it took me 3.5 years to figure that out, unfortunately. Um, and so I was like, man, I'm not working in the church. I'm going to be a coach. And this is what I like doing. Um, so that's when I ended up staying on a GA, and I stayed at Carson Newman and was a grad assistant there. And which is awesome because Coach Sparks was just like, hey, me and the other GA, you're running the JV program. You make the schedules. You coordinate the travel. Like you do everything. You run it the way you want to run it, and I'll just okay it. And so like I was in charge of all the development and training, and I had my recruiting area, but not just JV kids. But just doing all that, I was like, man, this is the type of ministry I want to get into. This is how I can see it done. And now when you're at private Christian school, obviously ministry is easy in the terms of like, I can say Jesus. I'm in a public high school. It's not as easy here. But that doesn't mean I can't love my kids and do ministry without saying certain things. And so just being in that setting and just knowing that, gosh, knowing some of the stories that our kids go through, just having the opportunity to love on them. I'm doing everything I planned on doing, just not at a church. I'm just doing it in like that weight room is my mission field. So
I look at our weight room very much the same now. I struggle with how my ministry gets presented to the kids, and sometimes I really wonder if I'm making the difference that I hope to make. We're out there every day with them. Now it doesn't mean that everything I say is kosher probably in a ministry field, but they keep showing up, and hopefully we see a change somewhere along the way, and maybe I can figure out how to run this thing a little better. So I thought I'd pick your brain a little bit.
yeah,
You know, they have to keep showing up, otherwise it doesn't do any good. So if you get too strict with it, or you're too abrasive about it, you run them off, and then now you've defeated your ministry.
yeah. Well, I mess up every day. I mess up all the time. And fortunately, the ministry's success is not built on me. It's built on Christ. Because if it was about how much I could do or how successful or how good I could be, it'd be pretty pitiful anyways. And so just knowing that it's freeing, right? That it's not about making Zack Fleming known. It's about making Christ known. And so, I might not ever see any impact, right? I might not ever see the kid change or nothing. But my job is to plant the seed. My job is not to make it grow. Maybe my job might be to harvest it. Like the planting and the harvesting, those are two roles that I can do. The whole growing part, I have no control over, right? I can plant the seed. I can do what is necessary. Again, I'll probably screw that up sometimes, but I'm not in charge of the whole growth process. And at the end, maybe it's me, maybe it's another farmer, maybe it's somebody else. But harvesting I can do as well. But that middle part, I just got to trust that the Lord's taking care of that.
And that's the way I've come to see it is I can have very little control over that. Hopefully there's something in there that's impactful, and we make better humans when it's all said and done. I did peruse your Instagram there a little bit, and you had some stuff on RSI. So you do a 5-hop RSI, and you have your males and your females broke up. What kind of numbers are you wanting to see as good RSI on the 5-hop on your male and female?
Well, and so it kind of just depends on the group of kids, right? And I think it depends on the position. Again, we talked about earlier, like with the cross country and me running together, like our linemen just aren't bouncy. Like some of them might be. In high school, it's a little bit different because sometimes you get the kid that you're a lineman because you're big, or you're a running back because you're fast. You're big, but it's like it's just kind of like we got to put you wherever we can put you. Um, I mean, we had depending on which of our linemen is on the field, there's a chance our running back will be bigger than one of our linemen this year. We've got a kid who's nursing the shoulder right now, so it just depends on when he comes back. And so it's like that doesn't make sense. But you look at the type of kid. So if our kids they're in the threes, 3.5, like we got some really springy girls or kids, and it's like, well, that kid's doing this, so we need to be able to do. It's not like we can't just keep going higher and higher, right? I'd say 3.5 for our guys and 3 for our girls. And I know that it depends on how you're measuring and this and that. And I just take it on the OVR, and OVR doesn't automatically calculate it. I just have it, and I do all 5. Like it's not it's not 10 hop and you take the best 5. It's just 5. And we just have it. It puts them all out there. We write it down, next kid up. And then as we type it in, it auto calculates it for us. But yeah, I would say 3.5 for our guys, 3 for the girls. Like I said, there are some that are way up there. But like I said, I'm also not gonna, just scrap everything if we got some heavy set kids that are doing like a 2, which is not great. But I'm not gonna. It's at the end of the world either that he's not super bouncy, right?
So if you're measuring it, you're keeping track of it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you figure out what is improving the RSI in your population?
So it's got the RSI, but it's got the ground contact time and the jump height, right? So we look at all that, and I'm not going to pretend that I could say that our kids understand that completely. I mean, I tell them, and some of them do. I mean, I've got one. Hey, coach, man, again, I know I keep talking about bench press. It was the last thing we did this past week, and I was showing one of them about peak velocity, time to peak velocity, some other things, and he's like, "Yeah, coach, my peak velocity was like here, but my time to peak was really high. So I think I need to adjust." Like he is like data science nerd. He loves it. And then I got another kid who's like, he's just over there grunting, picking boogers, and by God, he's fired up to be lifting, man. He ain't got a clue about science, man. He just wants to lift. And both of them are fine in my book, right? They're both training hard. And so sometimes I just explain to him in the terms like, "Hey, man, you're on the ground too long. I need you faster." And so we'll look at all 3 of those parts of it. I don't look at, like, obviously I have all 5 of the RSI score, but then I just look at the average contact and the average vertical. Is it perfect? No. Is it probably the easiest thing for me at this current time? Yes. Do I think that there are probably some updates coming that'll make my life easier? Yes. But for the time being, it's close. And I know the whole thing, bad data is not, no data is better than bad data. I don't think it's bad data. I think it's at least in the right realm, so our kids can begin to understand. Again, the contact time thing is super helpful. And then I can be like, "Listen, man, your contact time was phenomenal, but your jump height was like 6 inches." And so usually what I try to do is give them a goal average vertical jump I want them to have. And it might depend on the day, so we can modify the contact time. But we'll just look at it that way. That's the biggest thing that we can. I don't necessarily I really only score it or like evaluate it after a while. Like, I'm not gonna like we've got kids been coming in this summer. We had 2 new baseball kids moved in from California, right? They relocated to Tennessee because that's what California's doing right now. They're moving to Tennessee. And so they'd never done any of it before. And so I've not recorded one thing they've done on the RSI stuff because they're still kind of getting, they've gone about 8 weeks, and the first week of school in 2 weeks, we're going to we'll evaluate most of them. So I'll do it then. But I've just been letting them get comfortable with it. just like, because I at the end, I also don't want them to come in and have their first evaluation be like, man, my RSI is a 1.1. I'm terrible. I don't want them to think that either. Give them enough time to learn it before I evaluate it. Because if I'm going to evaluate it and use that data to make decisions on what we do, I would hate to have this. We just got a test just to get a test. You're terrible at the RSI, but maybe I'll let you learn how to do it a little bit, and then we'll evaluate you. And so it will, it really, it's not so much a crazy modification in this whole big training program. It might just be the difference in a, a drop jump or just a vertical jump, right? What do we need more of, a force or the contact time, or maybe we'll do a drop jump onto a box, or maybe we'll say we want you to drop like a depth jump where it's drop and then just jump as high as you can, or it's drop and just be quick as you can. Like they're doing the same thing. Your focus is just contact time. Your focus is just height. And then we'll just see from there. It's not like I have to rewrite a whole program. It just lets them be more specific in their intent. And when a kid can be specific in their intent, typically they're going to be, they're like, oh man, this is for me. So I need to do this, rather than just be like, hey guys, all of you just figure this out. It's, well, listen, how am I getting better at this? I don't want to fault the kid for, like, the kid needs to understand why they are benefiting from it. I think they need to execute the team plan anyways, just to be bought into the team. But I'm not going to fault the kid for wanting to understand. Like, the kid also needs to know, how are they benefiting from it? I'm never going to be mad at a kid asking why we do something. Now maybe if they're like, man, why are we doing this? I might get mad then. If they ask me the right way, I'm not ever going to be mad about it.
I noticed that you're doing RSI, ground contact times, in your plyo push-ups. Have you seen any benefit from that? What made you program that in? I've thought about it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, so I just started doing that this summer, really. And quite frankly, I had those jump lasers out anyways. See, I wasn't doing it before. I had done it sometimes. We had a couple jump mats. And really what happened was all of our jump mats died out. They just I had them for 10 plus years, and they were just wildly, it was just the mat. It wasn't the box or anything. And so I was like, well, we'll get some new stuff. OBR jump came out. It was like, man, I can get enough of these that it makes sense to, again, talking about how many kids we're trying to go through 4 mats, or now I've got 10 OVR jumps. Now I can get some kids through that pretty quick. And so I had left it out one day, and I was like, well, I said, hey, y'all want to do it on this? I said, and I told them how I wanted it done. And I have not let my freshmen do it yet, because they're not ready. I don't need them to think about it yet. And so really they said, well, coach, what's good? I said, well, what was your last one? 12. Beat 12. There's no recording on it. It's just do it and then try to beat your score. That's the only thing I do with it. I have thought about doing, and this is completely me, I've not done this yet. I'm just thinking, I've thought about doing some sort of like almost contact time with the hand. Like, how fast can I move my hand over? Just like a reactive thing. I don't know. I'm not positive I want to do something with that. And I don't think I'd do it with a full group, but just, when you're heavy on your shoulders, it's just like all your force is there. How can I just think about our linemen. If I can do that quickly, that means I probably have good shoulder stability, but I can also, our wrestlers and our linemen, like hand fighting, or even if you're going to have hands, like, I'm not saying you're doing, Mr. Miyagi on speed or something, but just the option to, how quickly can I just contract and relax and put all my pressure in and then relax it. I don't know. We might try that. So that's probably a winter endeavor, though.
Now, we've been talking bench press a little, and it's kind of ironic. I did just a YouTube short. I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. So I did a YouTube short on bench press today in the high school athlete. And I was prepping kids for, and this ties into what I saw on your Instagram. So I'm not just going down some weird tangent to talk about myself. But anyways, I was prepping kids for track. And what I noticed was a lot of kids, we were reducing the range of motion. So we were going like to a 2 board. And we were going to load that up in a high, less range of motion, but you could get the higher range heavier. What I noticed was a lot of those kids, their bench press was the same off a 2 board, even some off a 3 board as it was their chest. So that had led me to believe that maybe if we increase their tricep strength, we should increase that press. It was very obvious that, hey, this is the limiting factor right here. Is the triceps. This, the press, in my mind, the press off the 2 board should be quite a bit higher than a press off a chest.
Great.
Anyways, through that, we added in the football bar. You had some videos on the football bar. So the question I had with that is, when the triceps fail on that football bar, it's pretty noticeable, at least with the population I work with. Are you seeing it the same way? Like when their triceps go, that bar is done.
Yes. Yeah. It's incredible. Like they'll be going, you're like, man, they got this. Nope, the bar's moving, and then all of a sudden it just stops. Yep, that's it. Nope, triceps. I tell you what's been fun is our kids picked up on it. I mean, I was gonna eventually talk to him about it, but we were looking at, again, it was that nerdy receiver we got that was talking about time to peak velocity. He's like, Coach, when my time to peak velocity is really fast or a really low number, I don't get the bar off my chest. When it's really high, I think it's at the top of my press out. And so he was just talking about, well, if it's down here, maybe it's too heavy for me. And so my peak is really high and I just can't get it. Versus the top, it's like I could do more weight if, the pressing strength is there to get it up halfway. The reason it slows down as much, he was just talking through some stuff. And so some of the kids are even looking at that. It's just, I've somewhat educated them on it. I have not gone full. Again, it's extra things to look at. I'm super interested in it. Super interested in it. I don't think 76 of my football players are that interested in it that I need to spend much time working on it. But yeah, listen, with straight bar, our football bar, like it's just, I try to do, it's really easy though, looking at it with the board, and we don't have boards, true boards. We got those AirX pads. We use those. It's close enough. Again, I know it's not perfect, but what we got. But you can see really quickly the deficiency the kid has. Sometimes it's fun to just be like, hey, with no strings attached to the bar, you just like, this should be significantly higher. And it's fun with the kids, and I'll give them a percentage, but base it off of velocity, right? And so sometimes the percentage is based on the highest they've done ever, right? They're 1 rep max. But the velocity is just the velocity. Like that might fluctuate. So the percentage might fluctuate really. And so it's just interesting to see, sometimes I've got the velocity set or the percentage way too high or way too low for said velocity. But you can see if the bar stops moving at a certain speed, you can see the fatigue really start setting in. And it's just a capacity thing we got to work on. I don't see it as much in July, hopefully, if we've done a decent job getting the capacity built up for season. Still see it a little bit, but early in January, man, it's like the first set. We had a kid, I was telling him, I told him I was just at peak velocity. I was just trying to get them to press it as fast as they could. It was light-ish weight, so I knew they would get all the reps. I just told him I wanted them above 0.6 peak velocity, which is not insane or anything. His first rep, he did 1, then 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, right? And I was like, well, let's just go up in your weight. And then he could hit 90 or I just dropped the decimal. So 1 is 100. He'd hit 100, then 80, and he could hit these crazy high numbers on 1 or 2 reps, but then it drops, and it was never a pressing strength issue. It was a capacity, or in a lot of times it was a tricep issue at the time. And so some of my better pressers, at least, they could get up there and it was 65, 62, 63. I mean, it was just every time the exact same. And that's what we want them all to end up doing, right? We wanted them to have great, you can do it and hit 1 meter per second one time. This is the goal. I want you to hit this, and I want you to be able to do it a lot of times. So they go from getting 1 set of peak velocity 0.6 on 1 rep to eventually getting 4 or 5 sets at whatever the velocity is. Um, so that's just some fun things to add in, just kind of how you evaluate that too.
I want to get back to that on capacity because there's some things I noticed with that, and mostly in the jumps. But real quick on the football bar and what you were talking about with your nerdy receiver, it seems to me like the football bar and even the cambered bar, not only does it show tricep weakness, but do you find it shows a lack of wedging or staying tight in the bottom? Because if they can't stay tight in the bottom, that bar will get to shaking uncontrollably. So it almost self-corrects how tight they're wedging in that bar.
Yeah. I love watching the first time a kid picks up that bar, because it's just like, it's going every, it's almost like you're doing a dangle bench. I'm talking about it's, it's, they've got, and then they learn how to lock it in and then control. And again, doing that, and just, they can do it for one set or a couple of reps. Just, and they've got to learn it. You got to think like, and I kind of, and feels like I'm changing subjects, sprinting wise. I was trying to get us just to sprint faster. That was my big early August through December last year. It was like, I just need to sprint faster. And I was so consumed with what the time was. Like, we would do like 3 sprints, and by gosh, they were fast, but like, you could only do it 3 times. Well, what good is that in the second quarter even, like, what good is that? Like, we got to be able to sprint consistently fast a lot of times, looking at our GPS data with football, just trying to like match that sprint count. Even with basketball, we used it a little bit with them. Just trying to match those counts. Like, can we actually sustain speed longer than a sprint? Right? We got to, like, if we can't be faster in the fourth quarter, like, that speed in the first quarter was nice, but like, now we're getting ran past. Right? We got to be able to, like, it's the same thing. It almost, once you show them like, why are we doing this? Like, what's the goal? Because does it kind of suck to sprint that many times? Yeah. Or does it suck to, like, it's hard to bench that many times and control it? Like, it's tough. It's challenging. I mean, it's way more sexy to do, man, I'm going to do 5x3 and just be heavy. Like, it's way sexy to do heavy singles and doubles. But again, that explanation of, hey, this is going to give it, this is not necessarily super fun. The adaptation it's going to give us is this, though. Oh, okay, coach. Yeah, I can do that. If that's what's going to happen, then yes. Now, it is important, right, that happens. After 11 years, we've got a pretty good system, though. More often than not, I can tell you which kids it will happen for and which ones it won't happen for. And there's again, it's not a perfect system. There's some kids I screw it up for them, but when they see, coach, we do this, that happens. Hey, all in, let's do it.
The capacity thing's an easy sell if you got a high performer. It seems like the younger kids come in and we'll pop off a jump. Let's say the kid comes in and he pops off. Maybe he ain't been doing it very long, so he pops off a 23. That was his best jump, and not another jump will come close to that. So then you can have this conversation. Well, that was your fastball. That was the best pitch you had, but you can't come close to it. And you won't get there until we build your capacity up to continuously throw fastballs. And then they're like, why didn't you just say that to begin with? It's like, well, it wouldn't have worked if I just would have said that to begin with. We actually had to show you.
One of the things I've been experimenting with is, and I 100% stole it from Rattel. He was doing the just single effort RSI jumps, and they would be under a certain contact time, but over a certain percentage of the jump. And we've been messing with that for a couple months now. I think that's been them knowing what a certain percentage of the jump is I want them to be above. That's been super helpful. Like I said, with the capacity output, and hey guys, because what happens when you put a laser on it, or when you put whether it's a jump or a sprint or a string for the speed, like whatever, like you put it on there and they want to get their best every time, right? And kids are in shambles if they're not PRing every time. Like, guys, first off, if you PR every time, we got Olympians. At some point, if you PR every time, we have just, like, it just can't happen, right? I want you to be able to, on any given day, though, hit this, you hit this, I'm happy. And so I think and now shifting to that was a little bit weird for our kids. And quite frankly, for me, because I'm like, man, I want a PR every time. Like I want to, I don't sprint with the kids, but I do sprint every week with them. And man, when you PR a couple weeks in a row, that week you don't PR, you're like, I'm the slowest person in America. I'm terrible. I'm awful. Like I'm pitiful. Like I need to be fine. Like it's demoralizing. Like, it's hard. But it was like 0.01 off. It was a hundredth of a second off of what you did. It's like that's still really good. And you did it 6 or 7 times back to back to back, like with little rest. Like it was phenomenal, right? And so again, and it just goes back to like the longevity of it. Now, if you're a sprinter, if this is track 100 meter, like by God, it better be good on that one. That's the only one. Shot put, pole in most track events, like that first one, the only one, it better be good. Pretty much everything else, though, the first one better be good, but the second one's got to be good. The third one's got to be good. The fourth one, like, there's a whole bigger number that's got to be good. And it's the educating the kid, but like even me, like I got to calm down with it too. Like I want to see PRs. I want to see the numbers go up every time. But like if I emphasize that, guess what they're going to do? I can teach them all I want, but if I emphasize that it's PR every time? Well, then that's what they're going to try to do. And I want them to try to, but I want them to be okay. I need to be excited about, hey, you hit the threshold. If you hit the threshold, I'm fired up. I got to be as excited about that as I am when they do PR. Like I got to, if I'm excited about it, they don't know what to be excited about. They don't know because what do they say? Hey, coach, is that good? It could be the slow. It could be a 6 second 40. You dang right, that's good. That's awesome, man. Oh heck yeah, they don't know what's good. They have no idea. And so I got to tell them what's good. And how do I tell them? Other than saying, hey, that was a good job. Like, what do I get excited about? So, um, yeah, and that was just I mean, really stole it from Will. So kudos to him for that.
I'll start wrapping this thing up. I know you're an hour ahead of me over there, and you got family stuff going on Sunday, I'm sure. So I'll hit you with two last questions, and we'll go from there. But kind of what you were talking about with sprinting, we're getting some kids ready to go back to college. You know, I've really had to lean hard on some of the conversations I've had with Alani. Like he gets them up there where they're sprinting pretty fast, and in the last 2 weeks he's just having them turn over before the combine. He's just having them turn over, and they show up to the combine and they just bust out some awesome numbers. So me and the athlete, he's hitting crazy numbers right now. So we're trying this process. We're both a little nervous about how it's going to shake out. We got faith in the program, but there's always that little bit of doubt in the back of your mind. And saying that, how do you get your athletes to trust this process when you start pulling back some of the volume and you start getting them ready for the season and the program changes a little bit? How do you get them to keep pushing forward and believing it's going to be a success?
Kind of like you just said, like I got faith in it, but I don't ever want to sell them on this pipe dream that like, guys, this is the plan. This is what I hope is going to happen, right? This is what I think is going to happen. I think being authentic with them is super important. Like that's one. Like if I tell them this is the plan, this is what we're working towards, this is this is going to be this, that's going to be like transparency. I'm not, the Wizard of Oz in my Emerald Castle behind the curtain. I don't want to be that, right? They got to know what's going on. I got to be transparent with them. Obviously I think having gotten results previously helps. If we got results before and coach said do this, we're probably going to get results again. But again, I think it's like we got a kid that, and I've listened to some of your podcasts talking about kids in basketball season. They don't get faster because they're just running up and down the court, and they're fast up and down the court. One of our little slot receivers, man, he was so distraught because towards the end of basketball season, like he was hitting around the same times. He wasn't losing speed. He just was not getting faster. And some of our non-basketball skill guys were just like their times were plummeting. And this is in early winter. Like we're not even really doing our speed stuff yet. And so I kept telling him, I was like, listen, man, I'm excited their times are going down, but that's not the goal right now. Not the primary goal. Like I want us to get faster. The primary goal is for those times to go down closer to season, right? And we want to kind of start peaking then, and then sustain those times and be able to do them a lot. Um, so in March, why are you worried? You know, I said, I'll tell you what, if your times don't start improving after basketball season, you can tell me I'm an idiot, and then like yada yada yada, whatever. Basketball gets done, and then his times just start dropping down, right? It's magical. Like you decrease the volume a little bit, your legs have a little bit of freshness. We didn't play, back to back to back to back to back 4 games in a row for a district tournament or whatever, or state tournament. And so I think that just talking, conversating, and now listen, I feel the same way. Like I know it happened this way last time, but I'm still nervous. Is it going to happen this time? I still feel the same way. And you just hope, like, but like, what's the kid doing outside of there? Like, and managing all those things, I think that's important. To at least be involved in that. I'm not saying have your hands in control over every part of their life. I'm not saying that at all. But by God, I better be a part of the kid's life and know what's going on, even if I've got a million of them. Just because I got like, if this is what I prayed for and asked for, then I got to put the time in for it. I don't want to be like, hey God, hey, I know I asked for this, and now you've given me an overwhelming number of kids that I need to get to know personally and keep up with personally. So can you like tone it down? Like, no, I don't get to have my cake and eat it too. If this is what I asked for, I've got to be willing to then go do the work that is required. And I know this feels like a philosophical answer to like a specific training question, but I just, it's the thing. It's like, guys, I think this is going to work. This is the plan. It worked this way last time. It just trusting of previous results, right? And what worked for you. Like, again, we talked about kind of the individualization with the kid. Like, we're not writing crazy new programs for every single kid that walks in the door, but we're also not so married that we won't change for any one kid either. Again, it's not wholesale changes; it's just appropriate changes for whoever it is. And so, I think that helps. That helps me at least sleep better, knowing that we're doing our best with it.
I found that being honest, like you said, with them goes an extremely long ways. Like, look, this should work. Am I telling you it's 100%? No, it's not. I can't do that. But I feel like your best interest is in trying to do it this way. And all we can do is keep track of what happened and make the adjustments for the next time.
Yep.
You're going to be good regardless because you're just a good athlete. Is this the best? I'm hoping it is. I'm trusting it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't risk it.
Yep.
They seem to take that well.
Yeah. Listen, I think about like my relationship with my wife, right? If I just tell her like if I don't say anything, like I told her I loved her. We got married on June 13th, 2014, right? I can't just have ended the conversation there. Like it's just an ongoing thing, right? I can't just be like, all right, hey, we got it. We're good. Plan. We'll just, there's just this constant communication, constant trust. Like there's this constant, I tell her I love her every day. Right? I got to. Like, it's not just like, hey, I told you one time, check the box. It's the same thing. It's the same with all relationships with these kids. Like, man, I told you 4 years ago this, this, and this. Like, sometimes we got to remind them. We forget. There's just this constant willingness of having this ebb and flow of, like sometimes, don't. And one of the things I'm probably bad about, I was definitely bad about early on. Like I don't do the same thing though, is some high school boy who's got a bunch of testosterone pumping through his veins gets mad about something and blows up. And so then what do? I blow up. Like that's going to make it any better. Like I'm an idiot for ever thinking that was going to do anything productive. And then all of a sudden I've got this bad taste in my mouth about a kid that does the exact same thing that I'm doing. And I don't think less of myself. I think less of him though. It's like, well, that's just pitiful. And so then you kind of write them off for a little bit, and it's like, man, that's no good relationship right there. So just being willing to be with the kid through the highs and the lows. Like, just because they mess up, I'm not going to write them off. And when I mess up in their training plan, like I hope they don't write me off. Like I promise I'm doing my best, but in the same way, I'm going to give you grace. Let's give it back here and just. Listen, I'm not ever going to be just like, let's just do that. I don't ever want to just be lackadaisical. If I'm lackadaisical, like I said, in my marriage, it's like she needs to lead me. It goes like that's like there's got to be intentionality every single day with it.
I'll hit you with this last question. We do a lot of it. We rotate our deadlifts. We go from block pulls to deficits, and we just every cycle we're going one way or the other. I noticed on your trap bar deadlifts, you were doing a deficit trap bar pull. You had kids standing on plates.
Hmm.
Have you seen pretty good carryover creating that deficit in the trap pull?
No, the kid you saw on there, I think the one you're talking about. My gosh, it was a ton of like, yeah, we'll have them just pull for probably that first year. Um, we'll have them pull, learn it. Like, we talked about earlier, they start and it's like they think the goal of the deadlift is to touch your shoulders to your hip bones while you lift it up. We got to get that out of their system, teach them how to do it. And then as they get better at it, we'll let them just get strong in the regular deadlift. But in the same, like the body adapts. And if the stimulus never changes, it's going to quit adapting. And so that's when we mix in the deficit. We'll do a stagger stance. We can obviously the speed, we'll do the band resisted. Like there's a lot of different, of course, there's a ton of variations you can do. Um, but like, we talked about that. What was it about 200 training sessions with a kid by the time they come through their freshman year? If we're going to have that many training sessions, if I'm getting bored coaching the program, I know the kids are going to get bored doing the program. Um, so I don't ever want to get bored, but I never want to switch for the sake of switching. So there's this balance, right? I don't want to be a circus clown that's like, oh, what's the new trick this week? We don't want that. We will never do that. Um, but I also don't want to hammer the foundation so much that the foundation is all we have and we never peak up. Like the foundations are awesome. Like the foundational stuff, but at some point you've got to go to the next level. At some point you got to keep going up. And so as they're able and as they're ready, let's introduce it. And when you introduce something new, they've got to kind of build a foundation of it anyways. And so that stimulus kind of fries their system. Now the hard part I will say with introducing new things is like the multi-sport athlete, the kid that's a varsity football, basketball, baseball, or a volleyball, basketball, and then softball. Like we've got a couple of those. It's like, when do you introduce something new to them? Because if they're always in season, I don't want them to freak out either. Not saying they can't ever be sore. Don't that's they can succeed being a little bit sore. Um, but I just being strategic when you introduce it. Oh, we have playoffs coming up. Let's do a bunch of new stuff. That's stupid. That's not a good idea. Let's do stuff we've been doing. So maybe early season. I know with basketball this last year, we used GPS with them for the first time, and so really in the earlier I'd never used indoor GPS data, so it wasn't really like football GPS. It's very different. So I really had no idea how to interpret the data or what was going on, and really I was just collecting. So in the early off season or the early in season, me and our coach were just like, all right, let's see what happens when practice looks like this. And then the numbers were awful, like super high. So I was like, all right, we wrote that down. We did this in training this day, and this is what we did in practice. Okay, so when we want a hard day, we're going to do this again. And then, okay, let's see what happens when we do this. And we'd have really low numbers. Okay, we want an easy day. It was almost like we made a menu. And so from that menu, I was like, he would talk to me in the morning before we get training, and he'd say, all right, we need hard today. We need this, or we need an easy day. And then we would just take our menu and we would just work from that. And so you could kind of taper it off. So in the early in season, like, all right, hard day. Okay. New stuff. We're doing new stuff that you're going to be like sore from. Okay, let's do that. And then as the season got obviously closer towards the end, it'd be like, all right, not necessarily always easy, but here's my menu. Let's pull from the menu. Right. And typically I would let kids, anyways, like at that point, I'm like, hey, guys, we're squatting or deadlifting or whatever we're doing today. Here's what you can pick from. Go do it. Feel great. Crush it. And then let's win a game. So that's very helpful.
Well, Coach, I probably had you on here longer than you wanted to be, but I had a great time. I appreciate you taking some time to do this. I know you got a lot going on, getting ready for the season and then stuff with your house and all that. So that you would kind of push everything aside for an hour and a half or so to sit down with me. Thank you very much.
Also, I enjoy the heck out of it. That's anytime you talk a little shop and get rolling, it's a fun time, right?
I always enjoy it. I'm always nervous when they start, but by the time it's over, I've had a wonderful time.
Amen. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll get this out, and hopefully people really like it. I think we covered a lot of really good ground.
Sounds good. Well, I my wife told me to meet her at 5:15 at the furniture shop. So I texted her. She's okay. We're good. I'm not getting beat up or nothing. She said, if you've been, this is my role in the furniture shopping. She, she picks all the ones that she would be okay with me in our house. And then I just go sit on them. Is this comfortable or not? If it is, I look at the price tag. Can we afford it? Okay. That's my role. She picks all the design, but my role is to go sit and pay. And so I've got an easy job coming up here in about 10 minutes when I get over there. But
Yes, for a reference, right now Eastern time it is 5:23, so he
yeah,
is right on schedule.
yeah. So we're good. I'm gonna make it.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you get there. You have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too.
All right,
See ya.
man.